Hey everyone, Rin here, and thank you for coming. And tonight, we're going to be taking a deeper look at episode 3 of season 1 of Marvel Studios' latest Disney Plus show, Hawkeye. Welcome back everyone, and once again it is that time to return to the realm of the MCU, which came at us full throttle this week with an absolutely insane episode of Hawkeye. After last week's debut with episodes 1 and 2, the fan base seemed to be just a bit divided, as some people like myself enjoyed the return of one of our OG Avengers to the screen, whilst others believed it was a very lackluster outing. Most of the criticism I saw regarding episodes 1 and 2 revolved around a relatively slow pace and lack of chemistry many perceived Clint and Kate to have. I personally felt the complete opposite way, but alas, in this week's episode 3, I believe Marvel has found the perfect blend of action, comedy, and proper homage to the comics from which the on-screen activities are drawn from. I came into this week's episode solely hoping to get more of a Lake Wakaksis echo, and I can happily say I was not disappointed, as the title of the episode itself, Echoes, was a clear indicator that that would be the case. The episode begins with a very fitting and short introduction to Echo's history, as we see her father portrayed by Zahn McClarnon during her upbringing in what serves as a mirror of her origin story in the same way we saw Kate Bishop's in episode 1, as we see them parallel the two characters in a very effective manner here, in an attempt to have Maya capable of living in both worlds, that of the hearing disabled and non. Her father sends her to a regular public school, where we see her struggling to keep up as her teacher believes she's simply not paying attention. We also learn that her father is head of the tracksuit mafia, as we see him donning the attire both in the Ronin fight scene as well as at her martial arts practice. Several things of note take place here that I want to draw attention to, first of which being we get to see how Maya eventually develops her ability in fighting prowess, as she observes the fighting style and timing of her opponent here and then uses it against them. We also see here that she has a prosthetic leg, which leads me to believe we may later find out this is a result of the Chitauri invasion, which could be a route to even more commonality between her and Kate, as they both could have lost something then. In the comics, her power is eerily similar to that of Taskmaster, as she echoes the movements of others near perfectly. The other insanely exciting bit about this is the man to whom her father refers to as Uncle, who will be taking her home after her practice.
Remember, your match is more about speed than size. Uncle will take you home after class.
Okay, I have to be honest here. When this scene happened, I rewound and watched it at least 25 more times, as I am 300% positive that this is in fact Vincent D'Onofrio returning as Kingpin, as we'd heard rumors of such from multiple sources while Hawkeye was in production. As I mentioned last week, in the comics, Kingpin adopts Echo after killing her father, who was a hired hand for him, and raises her and sends her to the best schools. Here it seems we're getting a bit of a variation on that story, but nevertheless it does seem that we're finally seeing the bleeding over of the Netflix Marvel shows into the MCU. Now, as of yet, we have no confirmation whatsoever that this is in fact Vincent D'Onofrio, or that he is portraying Kingpin, but we cannot ignore how perfectly all of the pieces fit. And did you hear that laugh? That was definitely D'Onofrio's laugh. And if it is him, we could also be seeing a situation where he'll be portraying a completely different version of Kingpin, but I find that highly unlikely given all of the speculation and reports that we've been seeing that Charlie Cox is also returning as Matt Murdock in Spider-Man No Way Home, which will be releasing within the coming weeks. The Easter eggs within the episode also pile even more wood onto the fire, as we see the name of the auto shop that Echo arrives to and finds Ronin wrecking shop is called Fat Man's, which is obviously a reference to Kingpin, which even Hawkeye references later when he tells Kate that the upper management above Echo for the tracksuit mafia is not someone you want to mess with.
They started small, but grew. There's the guy at the top. He'll do anything to grow the operation. Now there's someone above Maya. someone you don't want to mess with.
But beware, Kevin Feige has been known to pull fast ones on the fans, as everyone who watched WandaVision would surely tell you. This is also where we see the heart of what I believe will be Echo's motivation and call to action in the series, as she finds Ronin allegedly murdering her father right in front of her. This episode was also very heavy on dragon references, which is a clear nod to the fans who've already seen Shang-Chi. From Maya's first conversation with her father to their last, as well as later on when Imagine Dragons is brought up to Kate by the member of the Tracksuit Mafia currently locked into conflict with his girlfriend, I loved how the episode seemed to flow from one point to the next, because before we know it, we're back with Clint and Kate in the warehouse where they're tied up. Echo finally confronts them, giving us some very good interactions between the trio, as she immediately notices Clint's hearing aid and even accosts him for it, saying he's basically handicapping himself by wearing it.
Sorry. Hard of hearing, not deaf. Riding a unicorn.
Learning about trust.
You rely too much on technology. No, she means your hearing aid.
Ah.
You might find you're better off without it.
I also thought it was really cool how Clint chooses to use Black Widow as the out for Ronin, saying she killed him and that he was there to see it, a story which Echo doesn't seem to quite believe. We also got to see more characterization here for Kazi, as he seems to be the only member of the Tracksuit Mafia that can sign. He actually comes off in this episode as a half-decent person, so it makes me wonder if they're going to take him down that darker path at some point that leads him to killing Grillz as he does in the comics, whom we met at the LARP last week. Or maybe he'll somehow do it accidentally in one of the later episodes.
Just let me kill you. I'll give you the suit.
But seriously, thank you. I owe you one. Like, this has been like the best day of my life. Come on. You did have fun, right?
Glad I did it. Merry Christmas.
You too.
Okay, clearly this isn't working. If you have nothing to do with this, then why did you put on this suit in the first place?
And how about that escape scene? It was absolutely crazy, from the car chase and trick arrows to the back and forth banter between Kate and Clint. I love the fight scene between Clint and Maya, as they really went at it, and seeing Clint get knocked down a peg when he loses his hearing aid added to the depth the show is going to really have proper representation of the difficulty he's experiencing trying to adapt to his new normal. And we can clearly see the difference between he and Echo combatively here, as she's obviously used to it, but once he manages to get his bow back, it's game over from there, because he completely wrecks everybody, and Kate does a pretty decent job herself too. I really like the tidbit about the 72 Challenger as they're escaping, because it's just another deep cut reference to the comics. As in the Matt Fraction run, it was actually Natasha that owned the Challenger that Clint showed affection for, that he and Kate eventually batch up pretty good in a chase with the Tracksuit Mafia, and as you can imagine, Black Widow wasn't too happy. The cinematography of the chase itself was fantastic, as they went for the one long pan shot effect that we also saw a bit of in Loki when he and Sylvie are trying and fail to escape the planet that's about to be decimated. Kate Kate's archery skills are on display for us here, as she doesn't hesitate whatsoever, besides the many breaks she takes to ask Clint exactly what kind of arrows she's actually shooting. I really like that the choice was made to use this chase as a way to show the audience the many different types of weapons and tools Clint is just casually walking around with in his quiver. I watched this chase scene at least 5 times, and every bit of it was necessary and very satisfying. And in superb fashion, we get to see just how good Clint is in comparison to all of Kate's successes. Here at the very end, when he instructs her to shoot her arrow up just for him to hit it with the best trick arrow we've seen thus far.
Here, take out that truck. Aim high. Bring the arrow down on him. Shoot up!
Clint has obviously seen more of Ant-Man recently than just the Broadway musical we saw in episode 1, given this cameo by Pym Tech. The rest of the episode further cemented that chemistry aspect that I believe many found to be lacking last week, because Clint and Kate really began to click well. Clint even compliments her in the dullest of fashions, as we begin to see the absence of his hearing aid having an effect.
Oh, we gotta walk the dog.
You're not wrong.
He's been cooped up all day. Dog can
Call yourself one of the world's greatest archers.
do.
Probably should walk the dog. What do you think? Been cooped up all day.
We also get to see Kate draw up a comic accurate costume for him, whilst she's trying to improve his branding, which we actually saw someone in the LARP that Clint went to. So score for Disney for staying consistent with having all of the Disney Plus Marvel shows continue to show and highlight the title characters' OG comic outfits. The best part of the episode to me was her helping him communicate back and forth with his son, as he's still without his hearing aid. I really felt the heart of this moment, and it just worked for me on all fronts, and I think it helped to deepen the connection between the characters. Clint obviously has a very limited amount of time he can try to get all of this stuff done in, so the scene also serves as a reminder to us, the audience, that this can't go on forever, and adds a bit of tension to all of the activities going forward, because we don't want to see his kids and wife get let down by his absence on Christmas. We knew that eventually we would see Clint come face to face with Swordmaster, and what I don't believe is their first time meeting, though they may not know each other outside of masks and hoods. The ending of the episode was fitting for what all we got this week, as it leaves us on the cliffhanger of having Kate and Clint in her mother's penthouse that they broke into to find out more information on the Tracksuit Mafia, only to have Clint held at sword point, ironically enough with his own sword, as we see Jack with the Ronin sword he stole from the auction. Many believe that during Ronin's time after Infinity War and before Nat comes for him in Endgame, that he and Swordmaster must have met in combat already. So the thought of this excites me even more, because that's going to be a really good fight. I also think we left off on a good point with the Echo character that will obviously be expanded upon. Her and Kazi seem to have some kind of connection, although we could see that go down if there is a bit of a power struggle, but I can't say for sure, as it comes off that he does care for her. He cautions her to Uncle finding out about what they've been up to with Ronin, which again is yet another reference to the man we believe to be Kingpin.
Hey.
There will obviously also be further revelations by and for all of the characters in the show, like Kate finding out eventually that Ronin is actually Clint and not just someone close to him. In closing, I could both make and would support the argument that episode 3 of Hawkeye is quite possibly one of the best hours of MCU television we've seen in the past year, and possibly beyond that. for various reasons. The character development in this episode was great, and the action seemed to never stop. And when it did, it served necessary interruptions for further development of our heroes, their opposition, and the overall plot. Given the teasers of D'Onofrio's Kingpin, as well as being armed with the knowledge that Yelena Belova is out there somewhere looking for Clint as she believes he murdered Nat, I honestly cannot wait for next week's episode 4. I will of course be continuing to cover all live action Marvel and Star Wars Disney Plus content and films from all walks of life that I have the pleasure of watching. And if you feel so inclined, I would love to have you back here week in and week out to continue to cover it all with us. Again, guys, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and click that bell for notifications if you've enjoyed our content here tonight. Jump down in the comments and let me know your thoughts. And while you're at it, be sure to check out some of the other content here on the channel. All of the necessary links are listed here below for you to keep up with the coming content and shareables. Please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. Or just the one you use most frequently. We are slowly but surely building a community here, and I would personally love for you to be a part of that. And last but not least, we have a merch store. So whether you see something you like or just simply want to support the channel, head on over to our shop and grab something. Or grab everything. But again, thank you so much, guys and gals, for visiting here with us today. I really appreciate each and every viewing minute of your time you've given us. There's loads of content we'll be sending your way, so I'll be seeing you. But for now, be blessed. And it was written.
Across the nighttime, the city sleeps inside. Yeah, hear her voice, shake my window, sweet seduce.